Michael McDougall.
Look, I want to thank the leader for arranging a debate in this House on International Women's Day, even though it is in fact happening next week, but due to the Patrick's Day festival, we are considering it here today. And my mind goes back 2 years to the 8th of March 2024, and that was the occasion chosen specially for a referendum, for two referendums to amend the Constitution. One of them was to introduce the concept of durable relationships as well as marriage as the basis for the family, and the other was to introduce a new provision in the Constitution in relation to care. Those two referenda were defeated decisively by the Irish people, and I have a few comments to make on that in retrospect. We may have forgotten what happened in the course of those referendums. One was the fact that the Referendum Commission failed abysmally to explain what the referendum changes would mean. The chairman of the Referendum Commission, when asked what the term durable relationship meant, said that she couldn't advance any real definition, but you'd know a durable relationship if you got a wedding invitation addressed to you jointly or a Christmas card addressed to you jointly. The minister in charge told the Irish people solemnly that the definition of what durable relationship meant would be left to the courts, and he himself would offer no definition as to what it meant, but he gave the assurance that it wasn't the same as the term durable relationship when used in European law. When those people who could see that there were clear implications for family law, succession law, taxation law, immigration law, pensions law, among others, sought from the Irish people's government some indication of the analysis done by the various departments of state as to what the implications of these constitutional changes in relation to the nature of the family would mean by means of freedom of information. I just want to remind this House that the departments in question refused to answer the question, and the excuse given was that the people had yet to make up their mind on the issue. Can you imagine? You can't find out the consequences until you make up your mind. And ministers, one after another of that government, came before cameras and microphones and declared solemnly that they had legal advice that there would be no significant changes arising out of the durable relationship clause. It transpired that all of that information and misinformation was false. It transpired after the event that various departments had pointed out to the Department of Finance and various other departments of state, the Department of Justice, that there would be very significant implications to introducing the notion of durable relationship at the same status as marriage. Very significant relationships in relation to disputes as to who was and who was not entitled to succeed in succession cases, who was and who was not entitled to come here on a family reunion basis in immigration law, who was or who was not to be regarded as the partner for pension law, and what family arrangements would attract taxation protections and allowances. Right across the board, the Irish people were systematically deceived by that government. And there's no other description for what happened. The departments had been warned in terms by the relevant minister had been warned that there were very serious implications for Irish society if these referendums were, if the marriage referendum was carried. But what was worst of all was that the The Electoral Commission, not content with talking nonsense about Christmas cards and wedding invitations, actually told the Irish people that the particular article about women not being obliged to work outside the home due to economic necessity had never been considered by the courts to any significant degree. That was untrue, blatantly untrue. There was a case law there which showed that the Supreme Court had, for instance, invoked it to protect women whose marriages were breaking up from being forced out to work by husbands who said, aren't they well capable of working instead of looking after the family? So the litany of untruths that was perpetrated on the Irish people at that stage, combined with the extraordinarily dishonest arrogance of saying that people's right to know what departments were warning the government about would be postponed until after the referendum itself was completed. That was perpetrated on the Irish people by a government which really had the arrogance to say that it was important to make these changes on International Women's Day. Well, I believe, and I'm no expert on it, but the great majority of women came out against it because they could see through it, and they saw through it as nonsense. And the second thing I want to say is that the care referendum was put forward as somehow conferring some status on people who were caring for disabled people within the family. But it then transpired, and again this was concealed from the Irish people, deliberately concealed from the Irish people, that the wording of that referendum had been deliberately changed from earlier drafts in order to make it absolutely clear that no person could rely on the proposed new article for relief in the courts, so that those who were caring would not have justiciable rights under that particular article. Now, I just want to finish by saying this. The then Taoiseach wrote an article in the Irish Independent saying that he accepted the wisdom of the people. That was Leo Varadkar. And he then left Ireland for Paddy's Day in New York. And within a week, he was gone. He gave a press conference in government buildings. But nobody has ever apologized to the Irish people for the wrongs that were done to them. And I'm finishing on this point. Nobody ever said, you were deceived, you should have had the information, the Electoral Commission was wrong, ministers who said this would make no difference were all wrong. And I'm standing up here today, 2 years after International Women's Day, chosen cynically as the date on which these two referendums were to be enacted by the people, to say that the mere fact that Taoiseach Varadkar resigned and the mere fact that there was a change in some of the ministries doesn't justify the wrong that was done to the Irish people and the deliberate effort that was made to pervert democracy by misinforming and starving the people of information to which they were entitled. Thank you.